You're still driven by fear when you have fear and structure. You just live your life, you manage to do the basics, but you're still driven by more fear than love. Funny thought, huh? I was like, maybe there's something I can learn from this person which was extremely uneducated and made a very weird choice. For this, you need to give up control. For example, there is a very famous coach of musicians. He has worked with a lot of the most successful bands of all time. And he had this deck of cards. All of the cards were about going out of your comfort zone. You need to know that you deserve the best and also future you. And you need to be ready to change your identity. Hi, I'm Kalim and I founded an 8-figure startup. What was the most important principle for me to get to this point? It was never stay in one place. Never do the same thing. Always try different things in different ways. And this is how I got here. I will not try to sell you anything in this video. This is completely non-profit, giving back, trying to help. Today we talk about inertia, how to move the needle when you feel stuck in life, how to overcome barriers, how to overcome fears, and how to move faster and achieve more. I grew up playing chess professionally. In chess, you have a game which you try to win, and you have 34 individual moves, and you try to make the best possible moves. If you make all the best moves, you usually win the game. The world champion manages to make about 70% of the best move, because chess is a very complicated game. But something that's impossible in chess is to not make a move. You always have to make a move. And the difference in player strength can be from 30-40% for a club player to 50-60% for a professional to 70% success for the world champion in finding the best move. But in life, it's a bit different because there's also another option, not to make any move. Not making a move at all is still a move. That's what you have to remember from today. Every inaction is a type of action. So in order to advance faster in life, to experiment, to learn, to grow, you need more actions and less inactions. Since we are not doing most things in life in the right way, there's always room for improvement. Change is almost always good because you try different options until you get to the best one. So how do we change? Well, in order to change, we just need to do something different. When can we do something different? Can we do it now? Sure. Can we do it after 5 seconds? Yeah. After a minute? An hour, a day. There are hundreds, even thousands of opportunities of good, meaningful, lasting change every day. How much of those do we take? Almost 0%. If life was a game of chess, we would be doing so few good moves because we will always choose to not make any move at all. The moment we're given this option, it becomes the default option. Why is that? Well, if we didn't have inertia, we couldn't basically live and survive, because the basic rule of survival: do the things that led to survival in the past. If I'm 30 years old and I survived 30 years doing this and that and not jumping off tall buildings or crossing highways, then it works. We should do more of that. And inertia is very valuable for survival. But the thing is that the dangers we had when we evolved were everywhere, and they were pretty severe. There were dangerous animals, dangerous plants, dangers within our tribe, like being cast away if we're not conformist, and dangers from other tribes that were trying to kill our tribe and kill the man and steal our woman. Basically, there was danger, mortal danger everywhere when we evolved. So inertia evolved with us, just like it is with other animals, to just keep the course unless there is something clearly much better to do. But in the current age, inertia becomes a problem because everyone's life is now safe and static, and in this environment, in a free market where the brave ones win the most because they manage to make new good products and services and sell them, in this situation, inertia becomes a problem. 100,000 years ago, when we evolved, there was not so much to be learned. You could acquire experience. You may try things in nature. You may try making a bow, an arrow, and there will be people in your tribe who could teach you some of this stuff. But basically, all of the wisdom of the tribe you would be able to learn, and there's a ceiling of how much you can learn from the common knowledge of your tribe. But right now, the world is so diverse and there's so much opportunities to acquire knowledge, diverse experience, and to learn, that learning should be the most important goal in everyone's life, at least up to 30, 35 years old. And how do we learn? Best by doing, by experimenting. So inertia becomes a hurdle because it makes us do the same things over and over again. And the thing that we do most, thanks to inertia, is nothing. Or close to nothing, like lying on the couch, watching some TV show. This is as close to nothing as it gets because it doesn't give us a lot of practical experience, doesn't teach us anything. But once we do it for an hour, we want to do it for another hour and then for another hour. And inertia just keeps us into these patterns of not doing the things that would bring us the most value. And of course, inertia is related to addictive behavior and to many other things, to fears. But how do we tackle inertia itself? We can define inertia of doing hundreds or thousands of wrong choices in a row. Every second you have a binary choice. Do I do something that will improve my life long term, or do I not? Of course, you can do things that will not improve your life long term, immediately or directly, but if they can keep you in hunter mode and keep you active, keep you in a flow state, then these moments create the conditions in which other ideas that will improve your life may happen. For example, if I go and play football for an hour, it doesn't directly change my life, but football is fun and enjoyable and creative. And this brings me into a state where I can have other creative and life-changing ideas and events in the next few days. This is a good investment of those thousands of moments that I will invest into playing football for an hour. But whenever we are not chasing directly joy with all of its upsides, we should somehow chase vision. So long-term progress. Joy and vision is the best combination that you can have for what you can strive for in life, because vision is what will help you long term, what will increase your freedom, and what will bring you closer to reality. And joy will give you everything needed internally, biologically and psychologically in order to be able to achieve what you need for implementing your vision. So you need joy and you need vision. But how do we make this in practice when inertia only wants stagnation? Inertia will work until you get an immediate danger or an immediate reward. Most things in life are not immediate. This is why gratification delay is of such great importance. How do we break inertia for the things that are not immediate stimulus? The motto of inertia is, if it more or less works, don't change it. Sometimes in order to change it, we need chaos. We need something to completely not work, not just sort of work. We need our life to be dynamic. Let's see how we can do that. First, we need awareness. Anytime we sense that we are actively pursuing to stay in our comfort zone, we should actively reject this desire. The comfort zone will lead us to sheep mode, and it will decrease our motivation and creativity. Every time in life that you don't progress, you regress. Maybe slow, but still a regress. So comfort zones are dangerous, and we need as little from them as possible. Of course, we need some. Our life cannot be complete chaos. We need some comfort zones, but they should not be addictive or long-lasting. In order to overcome inertia, we need inspiration, motivation, but these are kind of hard to be directly manufactured because they are flows. Here's what we can do to foster them. There are two forces in the universe: chaos and structure. Structure prevents things from falling apart, and chaos tries to destroy everything and rebuild it again. Humans obviously need structure, and chaos usually came from nature, from the threats that we had in prehistoric times. But in our modern life, it can very well happen that we lack enough chaos. And chaos and chaos, when combined with love, is the best basis to get the motivation, inspiration, creativity we need to overcome inertia. Basically, your life is a compass of 4 forces dragging you into 4 different directions. Love drives you up, fear brings you down. And then you have chaos and structure, which are both within you and in the surrounding world. Fear and chaos and structure are not inherently good or bad, but when combined with love and fear, and depending on the circumstances, they can be beneficial or harmful to you. One of the worst possible situations is when you have fear and structure. Like when you have fear and chaos, life is really bad because you just have instincts, you don't have any control over your life, it sucks. So people like Jordan Peterson who say, give yourself structure, like tidy up your room, take responsibility, bring some structure into your life. And short term, this advice is good because when you're still afraid, when you still have barriers, you don't have strong meaning in your life. But when you have structure, things on a day-to-day level, they become better because you can get a job, earn money, have normal relationships, and you kind of survive. You're no longer in this terrible fear plus chaos place. But the problem is that structure impedes any kind of big change growth. You're still driven by fear when you have fear and structure. You just live your life, you manage to do the basics, but you're still driven by more fear than love. And in order to do this giant leap of faith, of vulnerability and giving up control, letting go, that you need in order to replace fear with love, for this structure will not help you because structure cannot improve, it can only preserve. So you need chaos for this. And this is why when fighting inertia, which is a type of structure, you need chaos big time. When we feel stuck in life, when we cannot overcome inertia, what can we do to help? What can we do to improve? The first and most important thing is to have as much self-love as possible. We talk more about self-love in another video, but basically it's the opposite of having guilt and shame and self-sabotaging and barriers within ourselves. If we have self-love, we feel one complete being that is always worthy of love, including of love that we give ourselves without anything related to deserving it. And basically we have to erase the concept of deserved and undeserved things if you want to have self-love. In the game of self, everything is connected to self-love. So if you don't have it, everything is on a very shaky foundation and there will be trouble. The second thing is to have the same kind of love, not just to you, but to future you, which comes with a better intuitive understanding of time. If you want to get hammered tonight to cope with some emotional problems, this means that you don't have enough love for tomorrow you who will bear the consequences of this decision. You're making a bad trade-off by helping a bit current you, but throwing future you under the bus. If you don't do this, then you don't just have self-love now, but you have it over time, which would lead to better decisions and more overcoming of inertia. Remember, you deserve better, like not in the entitled way, you just deserve infinitely better, just like all of the other people, and future you also deserve every possible good thing. The question is how to get there. And as we talk, inertia, the problem with it is that it's thousands of bad choices in a row. How do we understand this intuitively so we can reverse it? I changed my view about inertia from a very unexpected place. Many years ago, me and some friends were getting back from a wedding that was in the countryside with a car. It was a 3-hour ride and there were funny stories being told in the car. We were laughing a lot, and there was the following absurd story that we were told by one of my friends in the car about his friend. So his friend barely set foot in high school and was very bad at all possible high school subjects, but he still wanted to get into university. So he chose the easiest university to get into, the one that doesn't require complex exams in maths or history or literature, the one that is just a test, but still he needed to get an okay-ish result in the test somehow to get into the university, but he didn't know absolutely anything, like anything. And this person went to the exam, which was 100 questions with A, B, C, D, E, and he put all these. He was like D, 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 D 100 times. And whenever we were told this in the car, like everyone erupted with laughter and was like, what the fuck? What an idiot. We were really not being nice to this person who wasn't there, who put all these. And like we laughed so hard. But then the story continued and it turned out person got into university. Turns out that like statistically there was supposed to be 20 Ds, there were like maybe 25, a bit more than statistical, and since competition was so poor, he just needed like to beat some people, and he got into university. And we had a lot of fun and laughs about this. After many years, thought crossed my mind. Guy got into university, but still doesn't know which Ds were correct. Funny thought, huh? I was like, maybe there's something I can learn from this person which was extremely uneducated and made a very weird choice. And I started thinking about it, and more time passed, and I said, like, where have I seen this? Like, when I go to a forest and go through a path, and the path goes along the best terrain, like choosing the right answers, opposed to when I take a shortcut in the forest, so I put like D in my path, and then nature throws random stuff at me, like there will be bushes and shrubs and rivers and all kinds of slopes like this and like this. This kind of interaction is very interesting because you get to places where you would never go otherwise. And I was like, maybe when you just do a straight line in something, maybe you get to interesting places. And then I heard about Hans Rosling, the famous Swedish guy who made these beautiful data representations about all kinds of data about the world, about all kinds of human metrics. And he went to ask the students in some Swedish university questions like, which country has lower child mortality? Turkey or Thailand? Turkey is kind of closer to Europe, so it sounds like it should have lower child mortality, but actually it's Thailand, which has a very good healthcare system. And he asked the students all of these questions that were like kind of misleading according to our culture. And of course, the students gave a lot of wrong answers because, as they said, those students who were very well educated in Sweden were living in a place that was not representative, so they didn't know the entire world well. And then he made a joke on stage, because it's a TED talk. He has a lot of great TED talks. He made a joke on stage and he said, I went to the zoo and I gave chimpanzees 2 bananas and says, this banana is Turkey and this banana is Thailand. And the chimpanzees chose 50-50. So actually they were better than the Swedish students. And this gave me the idea that actually, when you're that bad, flipping a coin is better. And it's all kind of combined. The person with the Ds and Hans Rosling and the fact that the chimpanzees were outperforming the Swedish students in an intellectual task in which chimpanzees obviously cannot read, so cannot understand the question, so they were choosing the bananas at random, but they were still outperforming the Swedish student who were consistently falling below the statistical average in their answers. And I was like, in which thing do humans suck the most? It's obviously change. So we have the opportunities to change every second, but we make thousands of bad choices in a row. So it turns out, if we could just do random actions, then we'll be much better at change than with any kinds of planning, because all kinds of planning really result in just small incremental progress in fighting inertia, while if we could somehow fight inertia with randomness, then we would get a much better result. Indeed, the improvement will be quite dramatic. Imagine that for every moment that you can make a positive change in your life, small or big, doesn't matter, big changes start with small steps. If you could just flip a coin and just do what the coin told you, this would absolutely demolish inertia in your life. The problem is that inertia is so strong that it's hard to get yourself to do this. So it's hard to invite randomness in your life. But there are cases where randomness is possible. For this, you need to give up control. For example, there is a very famous coach of musicians. He has worked with a lot of the most successful bands of all time. And he had this deck of cards. All of the cards were about going out of your comfort zone. They had things like switch instruments. So drummer was going on the guitar and guitarist was going on the drums. Shit like this. So no one liked the stuff on the cards, but it was meant to completely get you out of your comfort zone so it can be creative. And initially, the cards were a list on the wall where you go and you just point. It was like a list of 50 things that you can do to get more creative. But he found out that while it was a list, people would go and while they were pointing, they would be looking and instinctively didn't choose the things they hated the most. So it was not random. So he made a deck of cards so it's completely random. And we see how one of the most successful people in the world, this coach, he embraced randomness in order to get out of some of the other most successful people in the world, the top bands, in order to get the highest creative performance out of them. So randomness, turns out, is extremely undervalued because fighting inertia is, when you look over time, the life of a typical modern human in a developed country, fighting inertia is kind of one of the most important things, if not the most important. We are so bad at it that any randomness would definitely help. So the question is, how do we achieve this randomness? So, what is the opposite of randomness? Rules. In order to fight inertia, we have to fight our internal rule system. Our internal rule system can be based on several things, but the most dangerous one is morality. Because morality is very often the perfect excuse for not doing something. If something, even though moral in itself, can lead to future situations where we might have to be immoral because they are more complex situations which don't have a clear win-win solution, then it's possible that the hidden subconscious fear of these future situations, because it's tied very strongly to our moral, hyper-moral identity, it creates a set of hidden rules about how to avoid progress. And this is one of the common mechanisms for self-sabotaging and staying in one place. Basically, thinking about what other people would think, thinking about how to do things in the most moral way, and thinking whether you deserve success or not are the three biggest problems with overcoming inertia. And if you have more than one of them, they combine and reinforce inertia, and it becomes even harder to make any progress. The deserving part is an illusion. It's just coming from the way we were brought up. It's not in our biology. The cheetah that chases the gazelle doesn't stop to think twice if they deserve it. We need to fight, unlearn this, and live with the thought that we are deserving everything. The morality part just needs exposure therapy. It needs sometimes very hardcore exposure therapy. With the identity that we are super moral, our flexibility in life is gone, because the fear of losing this identity will be so strong that even if there's 1 in a million chance that we might have to do something immoral, we'll run away. What we need is somehow to break this identity that we are super moral. We just need to live with the identity that we are human, and this will actually make us more productive member of society, because our value for society is our morality, positive or negative sign, multiplied by our scale. And if we are super moral but have tiny scale, we contribute positively to society but very little. But if we are still moral but not excessively, but have a large scale, then we'll be able to contribute much more to society. So getting rid of the excessive morality is something that has to be done, no way around it. My estimation is that about 30% of people have excessive morality, and they are probably more women than men, due to maybe some combination of biology and culture. How do we get rid of excessive morality? Well, it's easy. Once you do something immoral, you're no longer completely moral, so you just need to do one immoral thing in your life, but purposefully. Like, do it to break the curse. So in my case, it was kind of an accident. I was a chess coach. I got prepaid some amount for chess training. Then students spent like half the money, and then we couldn't resume the training for I don't know what reason. I don't even remember if the reason came from me or him, but the end result was I had to return half of the money. And guess if I ever returned them. Like, first I was waiting for a bank account, then when he sent me a bank account, I didn't have any money, I had spent them for something. Then I forgot like 15 times in a row. Then when I remembered, I didn't have money again. It was years without a lot of money. So yeah, dude reminded me like 2 or 3 times, but he was rich, so he didn't really care, so he gave it up. I also gave it up. I was like, one day I will return the money, and then I was like, fuck, this is so valuable for me. I'm never returning this money. Now I destroyed this identity that was telling me that if I ever acted immorally, work will end. I saw that it didn't end, so this is super valuable. And of course, now that I overcome this, I could return the money, but unfortunately, I lost contact with the person. So even if I wanted, it was somewhere in Skype and just got lost over the years. The only thing I knew was his nickname. So, and I don't think he uses Skype anymore, so I couldn't return the money. But yeah, it was a small amount, I think $150 or something. The money it was not some giant amount. But anyway, I felt terrible like for several years about not returning the money. And then I just stopped feeling terrible, because that's how exposure therapy works. Like, you expose yourself to what you are afraid of. In my case, the fear that I might be immoral. And in the end, I just accepted that, well, yeah, I'm kind of moral. Like, I don't do this every day, but it can happen that I might be immoral in some small choices, and it's not the end of the world. It was very valuable for me. Also, I had similar cases, although not so clear-cut as this one. The other were more like gray area ones. But still, choosing to be hyper-moral and be bound, like having handcuffs on you for the morality part, is, I think, deeply harmful, both for people and for society in general. If you think about it, people who are highly moral, the hyper-moral people, these 30%, they should be all over the top of politics and corporations, because they are the best people to be trusted. Like, they would never be corrupt, they wouldn't take a bribe, and so on. But are any of them here? Not at all. Why? Because they are afraid of scale. They would never want to scale, because scaling means making some people unhappy, means scaling beyond a certain point means death threats. Every certain famous people gets death threats, even they're like the most lovely person out there who never says anything bad about anything, he has like the best possible values, doesn't matter. Famous person, death threats. So that's the sad reality of life. Whenever you get scale, you also get shit. But this doesn't mean that we shouldn't encourage super moral people to get to the top of the human power structures, because they are best suited to be there and to give society their super high values in terms of their decisions. Morality, kind of a very big hidden problem. I'm talking more about morality because it's much more hidden, this problem, because no one will complain about this. There are no support groups for highly moral people. There are probably some therapy and some support groups for people pleasers, but people pleasing is just a small part of the whole overly moral spectrum. Forget the morality part. If you're hyper moral, you won't become a villain overnight. So in order to push yourself to the Goldilocks zone, you should really push hard and do some exposure therapy about ditching morality. You need to know that you deserve the best and also future you, and you need to be ready to change your identity, because often inertia gets stuck into your identity, the stories that you tell yourself about who you are, and this is a significant problem. Identity can be a support, but can be quite harmful if it prevents much needed change. Beliefs that we are brought up with, such as work hard and you'll be rewarded, the labor market is fair, there are no free lunches, and save money and build stability from a young age. All of those are total bullshit. And the more you manage to destroy these patterns that you were brought up with, the better it will be to cultivate self-love, to live a more dynamic life, to take more chances, to have an objective view of morality, not extreme, and all of this will help with inertia. A lot of people don't take a lot of life chances because it seems selfish. Like, if we find a bag of gold in the street, a lot of people, of course this is a metaphor, a lot of people will say, okay, it doesn't belong to me because I didn't earn it. But actually, if you found it and it's no one's, it's your responsibility to give this bag of gold, again, metaphor, to the people that it could help the most. Of course, you can give it to the government, but is the government the most efficient structure out there? It's very important to have a responsibility about earning and sharing and view this as one big thing that is not separated into what I get for myself and what I give to others. You should get everything you can for yourself, and then you should give everything you can to others. And the everything may change subject to your needs and others' needs and the opportunities that you have for taking and for giving. It's futile to seek some balance in this, and it's futile to even think about how much you should take. Just as long as it's fair to others, as long as life, dynamic system of life, is giving you things and you're not harming anyone by taking them, just take as much as you can and then give as much as you can. It's not complicated. Again, there's a clash here with the morality. Morality and getting as much as you can have a considerable clash in modern culture, but this is only because the moral people don't take everything they can, and who takes everything they can and have the largest networks and so on? A lot of immoral people. So immoral people, highly immoral people, like free riders, they are a minority in society, but they don't miss any chances, so of course they will take everything. What are some of life's events that you can use to break inertia? What you can do to bring more chaos in your life? Life will be a series of small events and big events, and every big event should be used to break inertia. You should live with the thought that, okay, tomorrow my life may change upside down for millions of different reasons, and if this happens, these are the stupid addictive behaviors, and this is the inertia that I want to get rid of first. You should have, let's say, a tier list of what you are ready to get rid of and just need a tiny push to push out of your life. And good things that can happen is falling in love. Definitely fosters a lot of change. The brain is more plastic when in love, so it can be rewired more easily, but also even negative events like losing your job and changes that are forced on you that you don't initially like. All of these can be used to break patterns. And remember that the more randomness you have in your life in general, the more you put these as an answer without knowing if D is right. The more of those you have, the more you break this pattern of thousands of chances to bring some change, and you don't follow any one of them, because this is the pattern in most people's lives. Most people know that they should learn more skills, new skills. Most people know that they should exercise and eat healthy and sleep enough. They just don't do it. And when they don't do it long enough, it becomes inertia. Long enough is only weeks. So it's very easy to build bad habits. Bad habits are not destroyed by good habits, because the bad habit and a good habit are structurally very similar. Bad habits are destroyed by chaos. So the moment you bring chaos in your life and combine it with love and not fear, then all the bad habits will vanish or get very much diminished if they are addictive, and good ones will self-form in their place. You don't need a lot of structure for this. It will just happen organically because the forces will be pushing you into the right direction. In the compass of self that we have invented in I Grow Younger, where you have fear versus love and chaos versus structure, and when you go from fear and chaos, which is the worst place to be, to fear and structure, which is a bit better but still just mediocre, you don't actually progress long term because structure does not foster change. What you need is to get back to fear and chaos, and in this chaos search for change and love. This is how change actually happens. Any habit forming things, even though they may be very short-term effective, they may be a much needed intervention if things get out of control. They will bring incremental benefits. They may be a good short-term solution, but you should know the limitations of introducing a lot of structure in your life, because chaos is what will really bring the change. And just like the uneducated guy who put these all over the place, you make change without knowing where the change came from. Chaos will inevitably push the right buttons to destroy inertia so you can go to a happier place. You don't need to know which one of the things you did was right. You don't need to know if it was the hike, or going out to the movies to see a good movie, or meeting an old friend. All of these things will just trigger different buttons. They are keys to potential success, and when the right one hits the right lock, you get out of the routine and you get into the happier place. You just need to try again and again completely different things. You will probably not even know how and which work, but it doesn't matter, because you don't have to structure your success in this. You don't have to earn your success. You just need to succeed. And in order to succeed, you just need to be random. You just need to be like the chimps of Hans Rosling, taking the random bananas, and you get to success. In practice, there are two different ways to overcome your inertia. The okay way, the best way. The okay way will be to change the pattern of inertia, to change one box with another box. Let's say your inertia was making you just lie on the couch all day and watching Netflix, and then you discover very nice addictive video game, and it's better because it's active. You do something. There's much more thought and creativity into it. So you forget about Netflix and start playing the video game. Now, this is basically removing one pattern with another. The next one wins the Darwinistic struggle because it's more addictive, but it can also be better. A lot of people use sports as a coping mechanism. They decide to go to sports all day, every day, train a lot, run long distance or swim long distance. And this is better than doing nothing or watching Netflix. It's definitely an okay step. So when choosing your structure, you have everything from very harmful drugs to sports or other really good and still kind of addictive coping mechanisms. So whenever you change your one box inertia with another box, which is more addictive, it brings us more dopamine, choose wisely. So this is something that you can engage in external helping. For example, I love helping people choose the best sports, because sports fall into two categories: interesting and boring. And some boring sports like running are very hard to sustain, while super interesting sports like, for example, football or tennis, like if I could just play football or tennis all day without being exhausting, I would play for like 3 to 4 hours a day. It's so good, it's so enjoyable doing those. And of course, it's very healthy. You can get external help to tell you which are the interesting ways to do what you want to do. But still, it would be much better to replace the box of inertia with a flow. And flows, you cannot manufacture them, but you can still be strategic about them. You can give yourself the space for them to appear. You can do this in nature, you can do this with your just interactions with space and time, you can do this in your work, you can do it everywhere. Every place where you manage to make everything fluid, reduce the number of definitions, reduce the feeling of identity, and just make everything mixed, reduce the labels that you use, and just be okay with the lack of control and the lack of definition. Every part of these helps to reduce the boxes, make space for flows like love, motivation, creativity, curiosity. And love can meet structure at the other end of the compass, but only after you have love. Love can lead to structure, like loving the truth and being a scientist and discovering the truth and experimenting, but structure cannot lead to love. So there's only one way to get there, which is chaos, love, and then structure. Don't ever try doing it on the other end of the circle, which is structure, then love, because structure cannot create love. These are impossible just to work. Structure only stands in the way of love. So all of those people who listen to all those people who listen to Jordan Peterson's advice to tidy up your room, this can only work short term and is only actually worth it if you're really, really down and need to get from bad to mediocre. But otherwise, the right direction is the other one. The direction of chaos, the direction of these that you don't know which will work and which not, the direction of letting yourself lost in a forest, not knowing where to go, and the direction of love in all its forms. The fight against inertia is not so easy because to break it you need love and chaos, and a lot of these you cannot really strategize, you need to just let them happen. As with all internal battles, the great thing about this battle is that you can do it 24/7. The annoying battles in life are the ones you have to wait for. Olympic athlete that has won Olympics every 4 years and all of the rest of their life is preparation, and there's so much pressure on this single event. That's the bad pattern, that's the bad situation. People are much more happier and much more successful and can bring the best out of them when the fight is constant. And all of internal battles are fought 24/7. So, good news, the battle for breaking inertia is of the right kind. So, everything that you have to do is just admit to yourself that till the end of the life, in every moment, you will fight inertia and you try to make positive changes. And you use every possible tool to do this. You randomize your life as much as possible. Sometimes when it's appropriate, you can let other people or simply the chance of life to make decisions for you. You need someone to pick this card with changing the musical instruments. Otherwise, if you try to pick it, you try to choose. You need true randomness in order to make it work. And life is dynamic enough to give you this chance as long as you fall in line with your dynamic surroundings and don't run away from them into your comfort zone. That was all about inertia. Like, subscribe. All we do is exclusively non-profit. We're just trying to give back and share so that we can help more people. Thank you. See you in the next one.